Hi everybody, welcome back to an episode of the HT Physio Quick Tips series. Happy New Year. This is the first Quick Tips video of 2022. So I hope you had a great break, a lovely Christmas and a good New Year as well. For today's video, we're going to be talking about meniscus injury recovery times. Okay, so this is a video about knees, and a meniscus injury is a very common injury for someone to sustain to their knee, particularly in over 50s. So first of all, we're going to talk about what the meniscus is and how it can be injured, and then we're going to be talking about the recovery times you can expect from each type of injury. So to help me explain, I've got my knee model here, and the meniscus is a disc-shaped structure which sits right in the middle of the knee. So it's inside the knee here, okay? So we actually have two menisci. We have one on the outside of the knee called the lateral meniscus, and we have one on the inside of the knee called the medial meniscus. And these structures are made up of something called fibrocartilage. And fibrocartilage is a very tough type of cartilage, but it's also quite spongy. So what the meniscus acts as is a shock absorber. So it lives between the two bones, and when we walk, obviously the force travels up the leg through the knee, and the meniscus stops too much force from going through the tibia into the femur, which is the thigh bone here. So it's a very important structure, and it's usually one that just gets on with its duty without causing us too many problems. Now, there are two types of meniscus injury that one can sustain. And the first type of meniscus injury is called an acute meniscus tear. And an acute meniscus tear happens usually due to a twisting motion. And you might feel a pop in your knee, or you might feel something tear, and it's usually quite painful at the time. Sometimes people report pain the next day. And what's happened is someone's twisted with their knee planted, and because the meniscus is very tightly bound down onto the tibia, it hasn't got anywhere to go when we twist, so it can tear. And an acute tear can be either quite a large tear or a small tear, but typically it causes pain on the inside right over the joint. So if you press over the joint and it's sore, this could be the injury. And it usually happens kind of with one specific moment in time. So it's a specific type of injury. And acute meniscus tear is something that can also cause locking in the knee. So it can feel like something is getting stuck where the knee can't move. And it can also sometimes cause giving way. So the knee just feels like it's going to collapse when you stand on it. So that's the first type of meniscus injury. The second type of meniscus injury is something we call a degenerative meniscus. And you can either have a degenerative meniscus generally or a degenerative tear to the meniscus. And we think of this process very similar to the process of arthritis. And this is just where the meniscus has experienced wear and tear over time. It's developed tiny tears in it. It might have thinned out and become a little bit less plump, so it can absorb the shock less well. And it can often cause like a slow onset of nagging pain in the knee. It tends to be less of a specific incident than an acute meniscus tear. Now, a degenerative meniscus tear is more common in people who are over the age of 50, just because as we age, the meniscus starts to dry up a bit and it becomes more brittle. Whereas when we're younger, the meniscus is very tough and it's filled with water, so it's kind of turgid, but it's obviously more prone to these big tears if we twist. And the acute type of tears, they usually happen in younger people who are playing sport, or they're out skiing, or they're doing something active, or they fall down a hole when they're walking and they twist their knee, something like that, okay? Now, those are the two types of meniscus tear. One is acute, one is degenerative. So one of them forms very quickly, the other one forms quite slowly. And they have different recovery times and different things to expect from each one. So we'll start with the acute meniscus tear. Now, the first thing to say is if you're getting locking or if your knee is giving way when you've got an acute meniscus tear, we would recommend that you seek medical attention straight away, because these types of meniscus tear often do need surgical interventions. They need someone to scan it and have a look at it, and then potentially a keyhole operation to stop that locking from happening. But if you've injured your meniscus, it's not locking, it's not giving way, it's just a bit sore, we can usually expect these types of injury to heal up. Now, the problem is it takes a long time because the meniscus itself doesn't have a very good blood supply. So the blood has to diffuse all the way in through the bones to reach the meniscus and then diffuse back out again after it's done its healing work. Now, in terms of acute meniscus tears, we're usually looking at a period of between 3 and 9 months for that injury to get better. Now, it's such a wide range because everyone is different. The thing you can do to help it get better are to follow all of the advice that I provide in my other videos about meniscus tears, like not twisting or not doing any sport until the pain's gone away, and making sure your knee is flexible, mobile, and strong through a course of rehab exercises. Now, if you've got a degenerative meniscus tear, you might be thinking, well, if it's like arthritis, it will never get better. And this is actually not always the case. Quite often, people who have degenerative meniscus tears can expect it to recover, but typically it takes longer. The minimum time is usually about 6 months, and that can go all the way up to about a year. Again, the same things apply. So looking after your knee, making sure it's strong, making sure it's mobile, and the muscles around it are flexible is the best way to get it better. Try to avoid any twisting. You can sleep with a pillow between your knees so that your leg's not twisting at night. And there are many more things you can do to help, all of which I will discuss in another video. Now, if you've been suffering with a meniscus problem for a long time, let's say 3 to 6 months, and there's no sign of improvement despite following all the right measures, it's usually worth getting a doctor or a physio to check you over, and then potentially a scan just to work out what's going on inside the knee. So that's what to expect from a meniscus tear and recovery time associated with that. For an acute tear, you're looking at between 3 months on the best end of the scale to 9 months at the longest. For a degenerative tear, hopefully it should be better by 6 months, but it can take up to 12. Obviously, we can speed up the healing process with the type of physiotherapy that we do in this practice here. So if you're suffering and in the Farnham area, please do get in touch. Anyway, that's all I've got on today's video, the first one of 2022. If you would like to get some more tips about how to ensure healthy knees, you can pick up a copy of my book, Thriving Beyond 50. It will give you 78 natural strategies for better health in your 50s and beyond. And that's all I've got for you today. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you had a great Christmas and New Year, and I look forward to speaking to you on the next video.